Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, earlier today, I came across some articles about NFL player Albert Haynesworth. He's a former player with the NFL, and he claims that the mother of his child, Brittany Jackson, is abusive towards him. And Brittany Jackson is a white woman, and he accuses her of calling him a nigger on several occasions. He also says that she is physically abusive to him. He says that he has witnesses, he has bruises, and he said that he called the police about 10 different times during their 2 year relationship. And he said that he didn't want her to go to jail. He didn't want to ruin her career. So, because of that, he did not press charges against her for domestic violence. And even though they shared this child together, a biracial child, this woman apparently, according to him, has referred to him as the N word, calling him a nigger and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about this. The first point that I want to emphasize is that often you will hear people who have bought into this lie, this myth of white supremacy, basically present this image that somehow a white woman is better than a black woman, that somehow a white woman doesn't have the same attitude issues that a black woman has. They suggest that a white woman is more feminine, more gentle, more caring, and more submissive, and all that kind of stuff. This example right here, involving this man, assuming that these allegations are true, completely destroys that stereotype that people have in their mind of this white woman as some kind of model woman, as some kind of standard for what it means to be a woman. So that just shatters that myth. You have a woman who's attacked this man, according to him, who's physically abused him, who's called him the N word. So that shatters that whole myth. Often you hear this myth. You don't only hear it from a lot of men. Even here on YouTube, you have people who actually have videos talking about how a white woman is better than a black woman. But then these same people have the audacity to criticize black women who so-called swirl. And since I'm talking about the black women who swirl, often you will have them present this image that somehow the white man is a savior to the black woman. But then you have examples of white men who are with these black women, who abuse these black women, who use racial slurs against these black women. And I'm going to cite it over and over again. There's an article in Essence about a white man who was with a black woman who basically got off by using racial slurs and by being racist with his black wife. And that brings me to another point, this whole issue of interracial relationships and racism. People somehow think that because they're having sex with someone, because someone is engaged in some kind of relationship with that particular individual, that somehow that absolves them of racism, that somehow that cleanses them of racism, that somehow they are tolerant and accepting and loving of black people, when the two are completely separate. I mean, someone can have sex with a black person or even be in a relationship with a black person, but they can still despise black people. And I've cited this over and over again. Like during slavery, you had slave masters who would rape and abuse black women. They would abuse just black people, period. Sexually abuse black men and boys and girls and women. And then during the Jim Crow era, you had people who would segregate black people, people who would support the oppression of black people, but these same people would have secret relationships with black people. I mean, and the prime example that comes to mind is Strom Thurmond, a devout, harsh segregationist, but yet he had no problem laying down with a black woman. These people, they have no problem oppressing black people, and somehow somebody they're under the impression that because these white people lay down with them or have sexual relationships with them, that somehow that means that they are tolerant, that somehow that means that they're great people, when history has proven that wrong. Some of the most racist people have had sex with black people. Some of the most racist people have been in relationships with black people. And this is a prime example of this. This woman referred to him as a nigger, even though she has a biracial child. That tells you how deep the racism is within her. And this is nothing new. I mean, the slave master was so filled with hatred, even though he had sex with these black women and produced biracial children, he would enslave those biracial children along with all the other black people. So having sex again is not some kind of way to absolve someone of racism. It doesn't mean that someone is not a racist simply because they want to have sex with somebody or be in a so-called relationship with someone. And then this whole situation just makes black men look weak. I mean, here you have this black man who was a professional athlete, someone who is physically fit, according, apparently. Somebody who is strong, somebody who is 6 feet 6 inches, somebody who weighs 350 pounds. And you mean to tell me that he has to call the police in order to stop this woman from physically abusing him? You mean to tell me that this is a man who would allow a woman to physically abuse him? You mean to tell me that this man is so weak, so feeble-minded that he would be in a relationship with this woman for 2 years despite going through alleged physical abuse and verbal abuse? I mean, this just tells you how lost a lot of people are, that they would tolerate something like this, that they would tolerate a woman calling them the N-word, a white woman, a white man. And we see examples of this all the time. I mean, you had the example of that black woman who was dating this racist Trump supporter, and the guy was calling black people all kinds of niggers, but she was with that guy. And people like this, they don't learn their lesson. Just like with that woman, when she left that abusive white guy, that racist white guy, she went to be with another white guy. Just like this guy right here. I mean, I'm sure that once he breaks up with this woman and he's already broken up with her, I'm sure his next choice is probably going to be another white woman. Because that's how sick a lot of our people are. That's how brainwashed a lot of our people are. That's how steeped in the Stockholm syndrome that a lot of our people are. I mean, how in the hell could you be in a relationship with someone who calls you a nigger? How could you allow somebody to physically abuse you and you're a strong man who can defend himself, somebody with means who can leave a relationship and be with somebody else? This just boggles the mind, man. And it's just something else. I mean, it's a sign of weakness that this guy would complain on social media instead of addressing the problem personally and just change, just getting out of the situation instead of whining and crying on social media. That's not a manly way to behave. I mean, I just wonder where they make these kind of people. But I just had to share my thoughts, man. It's just crazy, man. It's just a damn shame that this is just another example of what we see in the world. I mean, you see all these black male entertainers chasing this white woman, viewing her as some kind of standard of beauty, viewing her as some kind of trophy of success and all that kind of stuff. And, it's not uncommon. You see many of these black athletes, many of these black entertainers, your favorite entertainer, you know, you see them with a white woman by their side. These people, even some of these people who talk all this black stuff, black this, black that, Colin Kaepernick this, Colin Kaepernick that. And those same people, when all is said is done, they talking that black stuff, but they chasing that white woman. So anyway, man, I just had to share my views on this. Tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.